Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here, coming at you with another raw narrative. Today I want to bring to you Crystal McCrory Jones Watts. This is her sister Jana. She seeks justice for her sister Crystal. Let's watch.
Some days I struggle. Some days I cry. Some days I'm holding on to all of the pieces just so I can feel whole. And on the days where I feel like I can't go on, I remind myself that I've made it through everything that was meant to break me. I've made it through everything that was meant to push me back down. Because within me is a fierceness that nothing can put out except for me. And with that, I stand a little taller and I face another day.
Jana has started a change.org petition for her sister Crystal because there's been a lack of investigation that led to a situation where they have ruled that Crystal took her own life. But her sister Jana says not so fast. On February 9th, 2023, 43-year-old Crystal McCrory Jones Watts was found dead in her home of an apparent gunshot wound to the head in a small town of Oak Grove, Louisiana. Her husband, a former employee of the West Carroll Parish Sheriff's Department who investigated her death, was found to have changed his narrative of his whereabouts on the day of her death. Due to his close friendship with the investigating agency, her death was immediately ruled that she took her own life. Only 2 hours after her body was found and her husband did his recorded interview, they made this ruling. Some investigation. The family was actively denied an unbiased investigation by the state police, even after the shell casing of the fatal bullet was found by her husband 9 days after her death. Her husband also had her body cremated against the wishes of her family, destroying any physical evidence, as very little, including gunshot residue testing, was taken at the scene. Her sister Jana obtained a laptop that belonged to her sister that had more incriminating evidence against her husband. When all the evidence was taken to both the sheriff and the local DA, her sister Jana was lied to and blatantly called a liar. The family is currently working on getting Crystal's case reopened and are hoping to have an actual investigation done to give her family closure as to what happened to her that day. We are hoping to achieve this with the help that you sign the petition and give her family a chance to get the answers that they deserve. We hope that you will sign the petition to reopen the investigation so that Jana may have some justice. It always amazes me what beautiful souls are caught up in such horrible circumstances when they're in a situation of domestic violence. It always amazes me that those who are supposed to protect against such injustices become a part of such injustices when they put their hands on their wife or their spouse. Please consider signing the petition to help Jana's family get justice for Jana. There is no reason why they should have to live without her, and there is no reason why they should have to live without the answers. It's bad enough when you go through a situation like this, but it's even worse when the police are involved. It's even worse when the police are your husband and he's the one that is putting hands on you. Some of us are lucky enough to survive this. Others of us do not. Can you imagine someone taking your sister's life and then that same person turning around telling you that she took her own? Jana's sister has worked tirelessly to try and find the justice that her sister deserves. But again, her sister was taken from her in 2 ways. Once when she was unalived, and the next time was when she was cremated against the family's wishes. Please sign the petition. And if you are in a situation where you are dealing with DV, get out. Get out before it's too late. Tell someone. And when you are getting out of it, make sure that you are as safe as possible, because that's the most dangerous time. The most dangerous time is when you're willing to leave this person and they might come back after you. They might try to find you. They might try to stop you from leaving. But there are resources out there. Please call the domestic violence hotline, make a plan, and get out.
Some days I struggle. Some days I cry. Some days I'm holding on to all of the pieces just so I can feel whole. And on the days where I feel like I can't go on, I remind myself that I've made it through everything that was meant to break me. I've made it through everything that was meant to push me back down. Because within me is a fierceness that nothing can put out except for me. And with that, stand a little taller, and I face another day.
On the morning of February 9th, 2023, Crystal Jones made a doctor's appointment, but she never made it. Some say the investigation into her death is riddled with mistakes. Now, almost 2 years later, the family says they are haunted by questions that may never be answered. A West Carroll Parish Sheriff's deputy found Crystal Jones dead inside her home after Crystal's husband, Tony, called the deputy asking him to conduct a welfare check. According to the investigative report, just hours later, the chief deputy interviewed Crystal's husband for the first time.
I'll be taking the statement from Tony in reference to a self-inflicted gunshot wound of his wife, Miss Crystal McCrory Jones.
Crystal's sister, Jana, believes it should have been investigated more before the sheriff's office declared it a suicide.
It took them 7 minutes to interview him, and in that 7-minute interview, they mentioned that it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Eventually, reports did come back. According to letters sent to state police from Jana's lawyers, those reports were full of errors and discrepancies. Jana says one glaring mistake made her question the entire investigation. The investigative report states law enforcement never found the shell casing. The husband did a week later. But Sheriff Matthews says the casing is pictured in the crime scene photos.
That's when I said something is wrong, because he said that casing was plain as day in a crime scene photo that 5 sets of eyes had missed, and it wasn't there. It's in no crime scene photos.
As the investigation continued, Jana says the amount of errors kept piling up. According to the case file, the ballistics report misidentified the gun. You can see on the ballistics report, it identifies the gun as a Ruger EC9, but if you check the serial number, it's actually an LC9. The coroner's report had multiple mistakes, including Crystal's name being misspelled, incorrect birth and death dates, the time of death was scratched out and changed, and health conditions were listed that Jana says Crystal did not have.
It also listed that she had pneumonia and seizures. My sister never had any of those medical problems.
I talked to a retired police chief with over 20 years of experience in police work. He says when simple details are incorrect, it raises questions.
I don't want to criticize another law enforcement agency or somebody that's in that business, but the truth is the truth. And if you don't do a thorough job and get all the details right that are obvious, that would cause me to ask a lot of questions.
According to the case file, there was no canvassing of the area, no interview with neighbors, and there were less than 40 photos taken of the scene. In some photos, the family dog could be seen on the bed with the body.
They would handle things totally different if it was their loved one. I think that they just messed up from the very beginning.
Feeling like the West Carroll Sheriff's Department failed in their investigation, Jana reached out to one of the leading cold case private investigators in the country.
I believe the steps that were taken in Jana's sister's case has caused concern in the community, as it should. And that takes away the credibility of the sheriff.
We reached out to the West Carroll Sheriff's Department with requests for their policies and procedures to investigate homicides, suicides, gunshot deaths, as well as securing and photographing crime scenes. In an emailed response to KNOE, Sheriff Matthews said, quote, "We did not deny your request. We simply did not have that information to provide to you."
You got to have policies and procedures and protocols for how you go about doing things. You know, there are certain steps that are just certain steps. I don't care if it's in Louisiana or Michigan or wherever it is. There are certain steps that you go through to develop a profile.
After being turned away by state police and the state attorney general's office, Jana and Sheila went to Washington, D.C. to ask lawmakers for help.
I believe that the city should probably start looking at Jana's case because, in my opinion, people have stepped out of the rules, and that makes the city have a problem.
I reached out multiple times to Sheriff Matthews for an interview to see if he could explain some of the errors in the investigation. At one point, he did agree to talk. On the day of our scheduled interview, he never answered my calls. He later told me he was no longer interested in speaking.